Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. You know, it's interesting watching monopolists operate in broad daylight, right? They'll try to hide the ball. It's like watching a magician, right? They'll try to tell you that what you're seeing isn't what you're seeing, that the unfair advantage they have, the exploitation they're doing is for a good purpose, right? They'll be clothed in some concept like religion or education, right? And they'll use that to justify their mistreatment of whoever, right? Altar boys, NCAA athletes. Now understand, we have a plantation system right now in America, right? One of the most exploited groups in America are NCAA athletes. Now I'm tired of seeing the monopoly that is the NCAA try to convince us that they're actually helping a guy whose market value is millions of dollars per year, right? They're helping a guy by foreclosing his other options, not giving him an opportunity to declare for the NFL draft until he's literally served the NCAA for multiple years. Now, this story has kind of burst into the public light again when Adrian Peterson, a Hall of Fame back, a future Hall of Famer, if he retires today, right? Adrian Peterson, when he's eligible, you have to wait a few years, will be a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, right? Simply put, he's one of the best backs of his generation, right? Let's remember, Eric Dickerson has the record for the most rushing yards in a season. Understand, the man who's number 2 is Adrian Peterson, right? Adrian Peterson was recently giving one of these NFL PR meet the press talks. And some reporter asked him, hey, do you think that you could have succeeded in the NFL straight out of high school? Peterson said yes. He answered the question honestly. Suddenly, there are a group of people out there, we'll call them the mainstream media, the legacy media, right? People who are eager to get interviews with folks involved in the NCAA, right? Nick Saban, Urban Meyer, you name it, Jim Harbaugh, right? So you know the rest. People with a vested interest in supporting the NCAA. Reporters working for outfits that actually televise and profit from NCAA games quickly came out and quickly said, hey, not so fast. I'm not sure if any high schooler has the ability, has the skill level to actually compete in the National Football League, right? I'm in my car today. I turn on sports radio, and they're actually having this conversation. Who are they fooling? What kind of buffoonery is this? Look, I know you want to exploit these kids. I know you don't want any 17 or 18-year-old to believe that they have a market value in the millions of dollars. That you're actually not helping them when you offer them some college education worth what, $20,000 to $25,000 a year? As the kids out there literally risking his entire economic future. Because Lord knows we've seen guys with torn ACLs. We know what happened to Marcus Lattimore. We know what happened to countless others in college ball. We've seen guys, first-round picks, end up getting drafted later in the draft because of injuries in school. You're not helping these kids. So, of course, I'm in my car. And I know, I know well that Pele, who was not yet 18 years old, led Brazil to the World Cup in the 1958 World Cup. I know full well that Bob Mathias, at 17 years old, won the gold medal in the decathlon at the Olympics. Understand, the argument that a young person can succeed in professional sports straight out of high school has more historical proof than the speculation from all these people that nobody can succeed from high school in the National Football League. How many years of college did LeBron have before he started dominating in the National Basketball Association? Right, so understand, the NCAA, that's a straight exploitation scheme. Everybody's getting paid big bucks, except the superstar players, who the fans are actually paying to see. The superstar players whose backs are being used for the NCAA to get millions and millions of dollars from the networks that are hiring the very reporters trying to tell you that it's a good thing. So let's be real here, because let's face it, the culprits are far and wide. Hey, I'm a big fan of these pro team unions, but let's face it, the NFL Players Association has some culpability in this, right? Because they foolishly agreed not to allow high school kids to jump from high school to the pros. I'm telling you, I saw Herschel Walker when he was a freshman at Georgia. I knew he could play right away. I saw Marshall Faulk when he was a freshman at San Diego State. If you want to see some great Marshall Faulk highlights, if you want to see Faulk at his best, go back to those Aztec videos. Right? Understand, what kept these guys in school was this bogus NFL policy. So let me offer a piece of advice, because I'm just telling you, the exploitation is rampant. Right? These athletes are literally just having their rights trounced upon. Right? The bottom line is people don't want to pay you your fair market value. So they come up with these canards to try to claim that while you're a great athlete with a great market value, that you're not emotionally ready for the next level. That somehow you're going to be scarred if you make it to the next level. Think about it. So Leonard Fournette, let's talk about him, the superstar in college who Herschel Walker believes is more advanced than Herschel Walker was at his age. Right? Fournette is probably the best running back in college football right now in America. Leonard, you're going to hear a lot of boosters from the school tell you, oh, you need to come back another year. Right? You're going to hear a lot of hacks who are employed by media outlets with contracts with the NCAA, whose salary is derived in part from reporting on NCAA games. You're going to hear a lot of these hacks say, oh, the NFL would question him. Right? They would question him if he drops out of school next year, avoids playing to protect himself for the NFL draft. Let me just say, Leonard, you can't listen to any of these people. Right? How many of them have had the endorsement deal potential, the lottery pick potential that you have right now, the millions of dollars potential that you have right now? You just had a guy picked in the NBA draft, very high, who bypassed the U.S. college system. He went to play in China. Right? Had a scholarship all lined up in the United States. He went to play in China. You know what that got him? Drafted early. It also got him the money he earned playing in China. Right? If I'm Leonard Fournette, hey, as much as I love the school, and I do, as much as I love being the big man on campus, the big man on TV when my team plays, right? Division I football. I would also know that if I walk away from the school, at least playing for nothing at the school, right? And if I get with an agent, right? Pro scouts, advisors with pro experience, all I'm going to do is enhance my position for the NFL draft. Let's get real here. NFL GMs would be doing their teams a disservice if they overlooked any athlete, because the athlete after his freshman year decided, look, I'm not going to risk injury because I know what happened to Marcus Lattimore. Right? A running back, South Carolina, blows out his knee, folks. Was not picked in the first or second round. Right? If you are aware of the risk, why wouldn't you take steps to protect yourself financially? Keep in mind, we already know what Fournette could do. We knew that out of high school. Few groups in America are as graded and judged like these high school football players are. You don't believe me? Go to Rivals.com right now. I'm telling you, I talk with people about recruiting classes, right? And we'll literally sit down and know which five-star recruits are going where. You know who the five-star recruits are. People knew Jameis Winston was a big-time recruit before he got to Florida State, right? My point to you is simply this. The pro scouts already know who Leonard Fournette is. Right? The college scouts who have watched his games already know. Herschel Walker already knows. Adrian Peterson already knows who Leonard Fournette is. So Leonard, before you risk it all, coming back like Marshall Faulk did, against defensive fronts who have 8 men, if not more, in the box, designed to stop you, against tacklers who are trying to get in the pros themselves. So they're going to do anything to stop you. Dive at your knees. Hit you late. Anything to get on the highlight reel. They might tackle the next guy. But against you, they want to put you out. Before you put yourself at that level of risk, knowing that right now you're better than at least half of the running backs in the National Football League. Right? I hope you get good advice. I hope you decide that this is your last year playing NCAA football. Right? Understand, it's only in the context of athletics that we tell a guy, you know what, your multi-million-dollar future, the $5 million you are guaranteed to make as a high pick if you blow out your knee the day after signing the contract, working out for the team. You need to risk all of that without pay, or for the value of a college education, or for some peanut stipend, with NCAA personnel looking over your shoulder, making sure that there's not too much A1 steak sauce on your steak. Right? It's only in it's only in college athletics that we get this ridiculous dynamic. It's laughable. Could you imagine someone saying to Pele, hey, look, we know that you have the capability as a teenager to lead your team to the World Cup championship, but we don't want you to do so. We don't want you to be in the World Cup. We want you to play in this junior league because we think you're going to be too mentally scarred playing in the World Cup, or we believe just because of your age that no matter how good your skills look on film against other guys who are going to be playing in the World Cup, we don't want to allow 17-year-olds to play in the World Cup. That'd be laughable. That would be downright ridiculous. You want to know how ludicrous the level of exploitation is? After LeBron James shows up in the NBA, after he's not just surviving in the NBA, after he's thriving in the NBA, right? Going straight from high school to the pros. Believe it or not, the NBA then made a decision that players like LeBron, straight out of high school, shouldn't even be eligible to play in the NBA. Come on. Give us a break. Let the teams pick the best talent. I thought this was America. Right? If some talented guy, if Leonard Fournette, right, hears from, teams like Tampa, Tennessee, the teams that had the top 2 picks in the draft this year, and if he says, hey man, you know what, I'm going to stay in college, hey, that's his right. Right? This is a free country. But don't tell me that he shouldn't have the right to hear from these teams. Don't tell me that these pro teams shouldn't have the right to show up at his games in high school and say, hey, is this guy the man? Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments for me here in the comment section to this video. I'll just close by saying, just like LeBron succeeded straight out of high school, just like Pele succeeded at 17, just like Bob Mathias succeeded at 17, the argument that no 17-year-old could make it in the NFL is a quintessentially nonsensical American argument. Right? It's an argument being made by people with a vested interest to profit off the kid, while giving him no more than the value of a college education. Right? Now, maybe folks want to argue that a college education is worth $5 million a year, what the first pick of the NFL draft gets these days. Kidding ourselves. If it's worth $5 million a year, wouldn't every college graduate, not just guys who show up in college for 2 years, but wouldn't every college graduate be a multimillionaire? Folks, that's not the case. Right? Don't believe these crazy pundits who profit from the NCAA. Believe your own eyes. Right? Don't force a superstar to risk his knees in college after we already know that he belongs high up in the draft. Let me say this too. Jadeveon Clowney. We all knew this guy was a superstar. You saw the absurd level of scrutiny the guy got in college. Understand, you can enhance your reputation by staying in college that extra year. You can hurt your reputation by staying in college that extra year. There's downside risk, there's injury risk. It's absurd that any league would take away that choice from an athlete. Leonard Fournette is not going to be allowed to play in the NFL next year. Folks, that's straight exploitation. Right? I blame the league. I blame the union. Let's hope all of this changes. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Let me close by saying, with all the injury risks, we're hearing about athletes now with brain trauma. Will Smith is coming out with a movie about, concussions in the NFL. Given the concussion risk, isn't that another compelling reason to allow high school kids the flexibility of at least entertaining offers from the pros? Right? Shouldn't the NFL, quite frankly, and shouldn't the NCAA, quite frankly, allow superstar college players? You remember the lineman Jonathan Ogden? We knew he was a superstar, early on. Shouldn't you allow superstar high school players to at least hear what the pros has to say? Understand, if I draft a superstar, I might be able to get him later in the draft. If I get him later in the draft, I might be more patient with him. Right? If I draft an 18-year-old, I might say, okay, look, I understand he's 18. While I'm paying him to develop, I'll wait for him to develop. And shouldn't the NCAA allow players who declare for the draft who don't get drafted to still get their education, to still get the benefits of an athletic scholarship? I'm telling you, a lot of players, if they declared for the draft and didn't get drafted, let's say Leonard Fournette didn't get drafted, let's say just like that guy, I believe his name's La'el Collins, had some story break and he slipped through the draft. If a guy who's talented doesn't get drafted, you and I know a lot of schools would say, hey, that's all right, Leonard, come play for us. We need a running back. You know, come to LSU, come to Texas, come to Michigan, come to Stanford, come to SC. You know, why doesn't the NCAA allow that? Let me hear from you. Thanks for stopping by.